Love After 60. 7 things men only do for the one. Only 1% of women ever see this side of him. Welcome to Wise Life After 60. So grateful to have you here. He can flirt. He can chase. He can stay the night and still disappear by morning. And yet, there's a side of a man so rare, so sacred, that only a handful of women will ever see it. It's not the side that flirts or flatters. It's the side that chooses. Because when a man truly chooses you, he doesn't just stand beside you, he stands for you. After 60, men don't fall in love the way they used to. They've been broken, rebuilt, disappointed, and guarded. They know what it costs to open their hearts again. So when an older man finally lets you in, it isn't out of loneliness. It's because for the first time in a long time, he feels safe. You'll notice it in small moments, the way his voice softens when he speaks to you, the way he stops pretending to have it all together, the way he lets silence sit between you without needing to fill it. That's not a weakness, that's trust. Before we go deeper, take a second to like this video and subscribe to Wise Life After 60, not just to support the message, but to remind yourself that you deserve love that feels steady, safe, and soul deep. Now, let's begin. Because once you understand the 7 things men only do for the one, you'll never mistake attention for love again.
Thing number 1. He doesn't just apologize, he repairs. You can always tell when a man is sorry because he got caught, and when he's sorry because he hurt your heart. The difference is simple. One says, "I'm sorry." The other says, "Let's fix this." And that second kind of man, especially in love after 60, is rare. When an older man truly loves you, conflict stops being a wall. It becomes a bridge. He leans in, not away. He listens, not to win, but to understand. I once read a survey from the Gottman Institute that found lasting relationships aren't built by avoiding arguments, but by learning how to repair them. A man who is emotionally invested will always choose repair. He'll say, "Help me understand where I went wrong." And he'll mean it. Watch his tone when he does. He notices your silence, your sigh, your eyes that look away. He slows down. That's not a weakness. That's awareness. Because when a man truly loves, he no longer protects his ego. He protects the bond. It's emotional intelligence in action, and one of the clearest signs he sees you as the one. A man can say sorry to anyone, but he only repairs what he never wants to lose. That isn't just emotional maturity. It's an emotional commitment. And once you've experienced that kind of care, every half-hearted apology from the past suddenly sounds like noise. But love doesn't only show itself in private moments. Sometimes its truest proof appears in what he says when you're not even there to hear it.
Thing number 2. He protects you in rooms you're not in. You'll never see it happen, but you'll feel its effect. Real love isn't loud or public. It reveals itself in the quiet moments when you're not there to watch. When an older man loves you deeply, he guards your name like something sacred. He protects you in rooms you're not in. Picture this. He's at a dinner table. The conversation turns careless, and someone makes a small joke at your expense. He doesn't laugh along. He simply says, "We don't talk about her like that." The table goes silent. He doesn't need to explain. His tone says everything. That's what true loyalty looks like. It doesn't need applause. It's not about defending you to prove something. It's about defending you because his heart has already decided where his allegiance belongs. That kind of protection comes from respect, not possession, from devotion, not dominance. In Jungian terms, this is when the protector archetype integrates with the lover archetype. The masculine energy becomes whole, no longer ruled by pride, but by purpose. Let me ask you something. Have you ever had someone speak up for you when you weren't around to defend yourself? How did it make you feel? Share it in the comments. Your story might remind someone that loyalty still exists in this world. Love isn't just about grand gestures. Sometimes it's about what's said in your absence, and that kind of loyalty can echo louder than any declaration. Thing number 3. He lets you see his emotional skeletons. Every man carries a locked box inside him. Most spend their lives guarding it. Inside are regrets, mistakes, father wounds, and memories that never made it into photos. But when a man truly loves you, he hands you the key, not to test you, but to trust you. Real love doesn't happen in the highlight reel. It happens in the shadows. I once knew a man named Timo from our community group, a quiet widower in his 70s. For years, he kept his grief behind polite smiles. But when he met Susan, something changed. One evening, he told me, "She's the first person I've ever told how angry I was at myself for not saying goodbye properly." That's what love looks like. Not confession for pity, but vulnerability for connection. Carl Jung once wrote, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." And when a man allows you to witness that process, you're seeing his soul in motion. You're seeing him step out from behind decades of armor. He's not performing. He's revealing. This kind of openness doesn't come from weakness. It comes from courage. Because when an older man lets you see his emotional skeletons, he's saying, "You're safe enough for me to be real." And that's when love moves from comfort to transformation, from something that looks nice in the light to something that can survive the dark. But there's another kind of signal you might miss, not in what he reveals, but in the very words he begins to use when he speaks of you. Thing number 4. He starts saying we, not I. It always starts small. You hear him say, "I'm thinking of visiting the coast." And a few weeks later, it turns into, "We should go see that coastline together." He doesn't even notice the shift, but you do, because language always reveals the heart's direction. When a man begins to love deeply, his world expands. His sentences start to bend toward you. Suddenly, every plan carries 2 chairs instead of 1. That's not fantasy talk. That's his subconscious beginning to build a future where you're already part of the design. Psychologists call this future pacing, the mind's way of rehearsing belonging before it becomes reality. He might talk about the garden you'll plant, the places you'll travel, or the slow mornings you'll share. He doesn't say me as much anymore because love has turned his solitude into partnership. This isn't about dependency. It's about resonance. When an older man starts speaking in we, it means he no longer sees his life as a single chapter. He's thinking in terms of legacy, connection, and shared meaning. Let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed that shift in someone's language when their words start including you, even in small ways? Share that moment in the comments. You never know who might recognize themselves in your story, because sometimes love's biggest declaration doesn't sound like "I love you." It sounds like "we should." Thing number 5. He invites you into his mission. Have you ever met a man who suddenly starts including you in the things that give his life meaning? Not just his weekends or routines, but the quiet dreams that still keep him awake at night. When a man does that, it's no longer about romance. It's about trust. Because he's not only sharing his world, he's building it with you. I once knew a retired teacher named Thomas. After losing his wife, he spent years volunteering at a local literacy center. It was his way of staying useful, staying connected. But when he met Linda, something shifted. One afternoon, he told her, "I want you to be part of this." Together, they created a small reading garden where older volunteers could read to children. What began as his mission became their creation. When an older man brings you into his plans, dreams, and unfinished projects, it isn't about needing help. It's about wanting a witness. He's saying, "Be with me in what I love, not just who I am." That's the quiet beauty of love after 60, when the ego fades and partnership becomes purpose. Carl Jung called this the union of anima and animus, when masculine and feminine energies stop competing and start collaborating. You're not his muse, you're his co-architect. And when love reaches that level, it no longer seeks comfort, it seeks creation. Because the rarest thing a man can give you isn't his promise, it's his purpose. Thing number 6. He grows in your presence, not under your pressure. You can't force a man to grow. You can only make him want to. And that difference changes everything. When a man is truly with the right woman, growth stops feeling like an obligation. It becomes a desire. He doesn't evolve because she demands it. He evolves because something in her presence awakens his better nature. It's subtle, almost invisible, but you can feel it. The way he becomes more patient, more grounded, more consistent. Presence, not pressure, creates transformation. A man who feels emotionally safe begins to self-correct. He starts waking earlier, listening more, reacting less. He remembers what peace feels like and realizes he wants to protect it. That's what mature love does. It doesn't challenge him to prove his worth. It invites him to rediscover it. Older men, especially those who've lived through regret, don't respond to control. They respond to energy, the kind that says, "I see you already becoming the man you're meant to be." That reflection alone is enough to make him rise, because a real connection isn't about changing someone. It's about creating a space where they remember who they are. And when that happens, growth stops being performance. It becomes devotion. Love after 60 doesn't shout or demand. It nurtures, and the man who grows in your presence is the man who has finally found peace standing beside you. Thing number 7. He brings you into his inner world, his people, his traditions, his home. You'll know he's chosen you when the doors start opening. Not the doors to fancy dinners or trips, but the quiet, sacred ones, the door to his world. When a man lets you into that space, it's no longer about attraction. It's about belonging. He starts to introduce you to the people who matter most, not for approval, but because he wants them to see the woman who brings him peace. He takes you to meet old friends who tease him about his past, neighbors who've known his heartbreaks, and family who've carried his history. In those moments, he's not showing you off. He's showing you in. He tells you stories he hasn't told in decades. The ones that shaped him, humbled him, and sometimes haunted him. These aren't stories for entertainment. They're memories offered as trust. Because when an older man opens those chapters, he's inviting you to understand not just who he is, but how he became. Then, slowly, he starts to include you in his small rituals, lighting a candle before dinner. He calls his sister every Sunday, watching the same black and white movie every Christmas Eve. He's not asking you to adapt to his life. He's letting his life expand to include yours. Psychologists often say men build emotional homes through familiarity. So when he lets you into his routines, his family, and his personal traditions, it means you've become his center of gravity. He no longer separates the life he lived before from the one he's living now. That's when love stops being temporary and becomes timeless. Because for a man, bringing you home isn't about walls or addresses. It's about roots, memory, and legacy.
In the end, love after 60 doesn't need grand declarations. It doesn't need fireworks or loud promises. It reveals itself in the quiet details of consistency. He's not trying to win you anymore. He's simply showing up. He doesn't need to impress you with words because his actions speak the language of peace. He repairs instead of reacts. He protects your name when you're not around. He lets you see the parts of himself that once scared him. He begins to speak in we, not I. He shares his purpose and lets you become part of it. He grows softer, wiser, more centered, not under your pressure, but through your presence. And finally, he lets you into his inner world, not as a guest, but as family. That is the sacred shift, the moment when love stops being something he feels and becomes something he lives. It's not performance, it's a partnership. Not fireworks, but warmth that lasts through every season. At this stage of life, we don't chase chemistry. We cherish compatibility. We don't want someone who completes us. We want someone who remembers us, who makes peace feel like home. Real love after 60 doesn't rush, it roots. It doesn't seek perfection, it seeks depth. Because when a man has seen the world, tasted loss, and survived himself, what he desires most isn't excitement, it's belonging. And when he finds it, he knows. So if these signs feel familiar, maybe you've already met the one who isn't trying to impress you, but to build something eternal with you. Maybe this is your reminder that love, at its purest, isn't about finding something new. It's about recognizing what has quietly been waiting for you all along. Before you go, take a second to like this video and subscribe to Wise Life After 60. Not just to support the channel, but to remind yourself that love in this season of life is still possible, still real, and still worth believing in. You don't have to chase what's real. You just have to recognize it when it appears. And when you do, you'll understand that the greatest gift of love after 60 isn't passion or novelty. It's peace. Until next time,
Take care of your spirit and let love find you right where you already are.